Well, hello there, and welcome back to Good in the Middle Way. I'm your host Rob, and I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome back. How have you been? I really hope that this finds you well. Today we're going to be talking about generosity, the first step on the path of practice in the middle way. Now, generosity touches all communities, all religions, and really every human has some experience with both being generous and being the receiver of generosity. But in those parameters, we also have some discrepancies on what is being overly generous, or what is enabling, or what is considered to be generosity. And so today I'd like to go over some of that through the four schools in Buddhism, as well as touching on how I think it affects modern life and some modern examples of where some of those discrepancies might lie and how Buddhism answers some of those questions. So first off, in the text, historically, generosity is under the name of Dāna, and I'll put that up on the screen here. And it is the first step on the path because it is one of the most accessible ways to become a little more egoless and sort of soften that sense of I that we've been talking about, that it's the possessive owner I, and that really, on our path, as we're trying to, get to enlightenment, to realize, this self that I'm protecting is somewhat of a consistent but imaginary friend, but I also have this raw feeling that is in me that's, it's connected to that imaginary friend. And you could revisit some of those topics and we'll continue to go on about it. But so then what would it mean to be generous and to be developing this compassion for others? And it's really important to start with that distinction and start with that thought in mind. I want to be generous not for gain. And we should really start there. You see, most people are giving in a sort of transactionatory way. We want to give in order to receive. Now, in a positive sense, we might be giving positivity because we want to receive positivity, and that's mild, and that's, not a bad rule to live by. But what we are often doing or can see is some people are giving and it's a quid pro quo, it's a transaction, it's this thing that we shouldn't be engaging in because it ultimately hurts us. And I want to make another note here because people will often think they're being generous and operating in this generosity, and look how much I've given them, and look how I got these expensive gifts, or I've been doing this for them, I'm always showing up for them. And they think they're giving freely, but silently they're actually tallying it in their heads, and they want this return. That if I need to call on you, that you're going to give back to me. But the problem is most people want it to be equal. And sometimes it really can't be. It's not necessarily inherently wrong to have that expectation. I showed up for you so many times that I would hope that you could show up for me. But if we truly want to get to this sort of freedom and giving freely, and Western psychology will also back this, that we have to give from a place of abundance and from a place of no attachment, which the Buddhists have been talking about forever. This is important because we get into mental trouble, or rather societal trouble, and that we have these mental troubles about these societal, cultural things because we were giving with an expectation that we might not even be sure we had. And some people are very, aware of the expectations that they have because I've given you this great gift or this large donation, so the expectation is you put my name on the building. And that is really counterproductive to what true generosity is. And true generosity is giving without looking for return. And every major religion that I've ever read or studied, as well as Buddhism, they talk about this. They talk about how you have to really just give and let it go. Just put it out there. I'm helping you because I have the means to, and I'm choosing that. You don't have to give it back to me. We're beyond those days, there's enough food, there's enough resources, there's, we don't have to barter so much. And that is really the aim here. So I'd like to now go over, as I prepared some notes, the 4 different definitions through the 4 major schools of Buddhism. In Theravada Buddhism, in the tradition, Dāna is the first of the 10 paramitas, which is the perfections, and the first step on the path of practice. It is the entry point for us lay practitioners, and it is primarily expressed through the giving of material support, food, robes, and money to monks and the Sangha. This generosity is seen as generating merit, it is seen as a direct antidote to greed, and it's a training in non-attachment, loosening the grip of mind. The Mahayana school, Dāna is the first of the 6 paramitas, again the perfections, practiced by the Bodhisattva, which we'll get into, but the Bodhisattva basically is a being who is committed to, as they're going through the stages, getting closer to enlightenment, there's a certain level where you're understanding and you say, I'm going to come back. And at the moment of death, you say, I'm going to choose to be reborn instead of going off into nirvana or staying, wherever the Buddhists reside. The enlightened ones, that's a whole other topic. But you're dedicated to this compassion, and I'm going to come back and help all sentient beings until everyone is liberated, or as much as I can before I exit. Which is great. So, and that is the devoted to that liberation I was just talking about. And here, generosity expands dramatically. There's 3 kinds: giving of material things, giving of fearlessness, which is a protection from harm, and giving of the Dharma, the teachings. The motivation here is shifting and must be performed with no attachment to the act, the giver, or the recipient, and they call that the 3 spheres of purity. True Dāna, informed by wisdom of emptiness, transcends any expectation of even merit or reward. Now, high-level practice there. In Vajrayana Buddhism, the Tibetan Tantric system, Dāna continues on this bodhisattva virtue, but also ritualizes it. They offer offering practices, which are like the tormas, the butter lamps, these mandala offerings, which you might have seen or could easily Google. It's very beautiful. They make these beautiful mandalas, and then they, brush them away to signify the impermanence of everything, and that nothing lasts. Even these beautiful things were instantly, I like this. I want to see that. I want to, as a photographer, I want to capture that, take a photo, and, instead of just being in the moment and letting those things pass. So they also practice Tonglen, which is sending and taking, and it's a meditative form of radical generosity where one breathes in the suffering of others and breathes out happiness to them. That's also a very high practice, and we could get into that at some point. They also consider generosity towards one's teacher, their guru, is especially powerful, but I'm definitely far from an expert on guru devotion. And so I'll end with Zen Buddhism, which it tends to internalize and deepen Dāna beyond the transactional. The key emphasis is giving without any sense of a giver or receiver, which is the most pure form of Dāna. The famous Zen saying, the gift must be free of the giver. And they consider everyday acts of cooking, cleaning, and just being present as a form of generosity, which many of us know and yearn for, just to be present and have presence with people, but knowing they're there. They're not on their phones, they're not distracted by what's going on, they're just present with you, can be the most beautiful of gifts. It just fills you up, it's so full, wonderful, And so, across all the schools, Dāna is understood far more than just charity. It is a spiritual practice. It's meant to weaken the ego, the illusion of the separate self, cultivate our compassion and our loving kindness, and reflect on understandings of interdependence, because we give because we're not truly separate from others. And this is important too, as I want to mention, as it often comes up over the years in classes, giving to the unhoused, giving to the addict. What does Buddhism have to say about that? As well as maybe some other traditions. Now, this is a touchy one, for sure, because we don't want to cause more harm. And so many of us, though, we'll have these prejudgments about what someone is going to be doing if we give them, in those situations, some liquid cash money, you know. It's really, that aspect from our side, the giver, is also trying to maintain control over something that is not meant to be controlled. You have a control up into that moment of choice, and that choice of giving or not giving. That is where your control ends. And it's really important that we come to understand that. And this is from what my teachers have taught and how I've internalized and kind of come to see it. It is not for us to judge what anyone does with the gifts we give them. We are giving it freely for them to choose and have their own autonomy over their decisions and the karma that they are both ripening and creating in these moments. Now, it's a bit hard to just accept that, because you might say, oh, well, this person might really go hurt themselves. You know, they really might go and die because of, you know, this addiction thing, or, you know, make other unwise choices. And that's true, but it's their choice, just as it's your choice to give or not. Now, for some of us, this is going to make us very uncomfortable, and we're going to try to uphold more of the virtuous idea of, like, I don't want to enable, I don't want to contribute something that I know more than likely is going to cause more harm to another sentient being, and out of their own ignorance, they're going to hurt themselves the same way we wouldn't give, you know, a sharp knife to a 2-year-old, right? Like, it just wouldn't happen. Okay, also virtuous, positive, good. But if we're talking about the practice of generosity specifically, and we're trying to advance ourselves, that is also that person's essentially worst day. You know, the bottom has many levels. It could get worse, yes, but it's essentially they're already in a bad spot. And the fact that they even need your help in such a way to only have the limited power of $1 or a limited power of $5 or something, you know, where a sandwich costs $7 now, you know, water is $3. So they're already in a bad spot, and it's their sort of karma, not predetermined, but it is their karma to then make those new choices. Now, if it makes you uncomfortable, don't put yourself out and to be uncomfortable, but also consider that for a moment and really just meditate on it. Think about it. You know, it's not for me to control. And if it helps you to achieve the aims of what you're choosing, I can't really, you know, control that anyway. And so people will do what they want to do. And it's not for me and for us as a community to necessarily try to control and stop. And I mean, there's definitely varying levels to this. If somebody is going to commit a very violent act and many, you know, people are going to pass or suffer from that violence, you know, there's more intervention that's needed for the greater benefit. There's very good stories of the Buddha in other lives. You know, the only time the Buddha apparently has killed, or as they were approaching enlightenment, they were on a ship, and by committing this act, they saved many, many people over many, many lifetimes. But we're not Buddhas, and we're not Buddhas yet. We have the Buddha nature, we have the seed, but we're not there yet. And so we don't know the full scope of the actions that we're taking. All we know is sometimes there's a moment where someone is seeking generosity from us, they need help. And if we can help them, we should help them. It's not for us to control. And so I'd like you to challenge yourself to think about that for a little bit. It's not easy to accept, as even for myself, it's very hard to watch some of these people who are already suffering and then thinking, like, if I, you know, enable them here, it might hurt them more. But if I'm already at that point, then I'm also not giving freely. So then I shouldn't give, right? So that's really the key takeaway there. You know, if I'm not giving freely, I shouldn't give. And I shouldn't be giving having the expectation that this person is going to make the most healthy choice for themselves, when they're already likely not having made many choices that were healthy and going to benefit them in this situation. So on a more positive note, I'd like to just end with thanking the joy makers of the world, because it's no one's obligation to create joy, which I see as a form of generosity. I see that as, in this, especially this modern world, you know, whatever they get in return internally for all their giving, you know, we're just not exactly hardwired for this. We are, but we're not, you know, like we're far though from these caveman sort of days. And because we have this ability now to have peace and enjoy and so on, having joy is such a luxury, and it's so nice. But you can see in so many parts of the world, joy does not exist, and survival mode is on, and there's, you know, so it's really a generous gift on the people who are committed to making joy, making peace in this world. And I think that deserves a little recognition, and to just, you know, really thank them, you know, all of them, of every color and creed, race, faith. You know, it's really generous and beautiful that people choose to do that, as I try to do that, as I try to give this information and be here in my own little way, helping people across and giving my time. You see, our time is also our most valuable resource. We hear it again and again, but really think about it. Our time is, we don't know when the hour strikes, as I think is how that phrase goes back before. So, you know, it's really important that sometimes just giving time to people or community or groups is enough. If you don't have money, or even if you do have money, just showing up, being present, that is more valuable in this process as we all move along towards enlightenment than any material gift here that we could produce. And so thank you to the joy makers, and thank you for being here with me and staying here for along with the journey as we go through. Please like, subscribe if you feel inclined. No pressure, as always. It just helps the algorithm and other people find and join us for the journey. I hope that this has given you some thoughts and maybe even inspired you to be generous in the ways that you can, and really try to just focus on the mental aspect. Like, I'm just giving this to you, I'm just doing it, I'm just going to be in acceptance of that, and that my moment stopped when I gave it to you. It's yours to use how you see fit. If you don't use it well, you know, you can't always come rely on me, you know, like these kind of things. But I'm trying to really generate this practice and grow, or not really grow, but dissolve that ego and dissolve that sense of self that is attached to these outcomes. And, you know, there's a lot that could be said and studied about this. Plenty of beautifully written articles and well-explained thoughts in that process. So, yeah, thank you so much. Until next week, I wish you well. I wish that you are healthy, happy, and have the conditions to be free of suffering. May you find yourself to be the receiver of great generosity, and may you also give back where you can to be generous to those around you and those you impact in your life. Thank you so much. Peace in and peace out. Until next time. Bye.